If you've spent 5 minutes searching for urban legends linked to video games, then the name Berzerk have probably popped up a few times. Too many. Now, this is a pretty popular story, but no one really seems to have a concrete answer as to whether it's true or false. So let's take a look. There are 3 stories that ties to Berzerk. One is that of Jeff Dailey. Jeff Dailey was a 19-year-old kid who enjoyed spending time in the arcade, and in January of 1981, after reaching a high score of 16,660 points in the arcade game Berzerk, he suffered a heart attack and died. Then there's Peter BUKOWSKI, an 18-year-old kid who supposedly suffered the same fate after scoring not 1, but 2 high scores in the same title. Lastly, there's a statement directly from Alan McNeil, the creator of Berzerk. He never mentions a name, but states that the kid was obese and had run upstairs to play the game, and that he supposedly set a high score and died, although the owner of the arcade said he never had a chance to finish. Now, it's a pretty straightforward story, and many believe this to just be another urban legend, while others lean towards these being actual events that happened. I mean, I get it. It's a completely possible scenario. This could very well just be 2 kids with heart problems, causing them to suffer a heart attack at a young age. The part about them being basically the same age, 18 and 19, could just be coincidences. Obviously, the biggest coincidence here is that they were both playing the same arcade game. But before we try to get to the bottom of this once and for all, let's take a look at how this game could theoretically cause a heart attack in the first place. In Berzerk, you control a green character moving through a series of simple mazes, all the while defending yourself against gun-wielding enemies. Now, the object that many people believe to be the cause of the heart attacks is a character in the game called Evil Otto. Otto is represented by a bouncing smiley face and can move through walls in the same speed as the player and kill upon contact. Yeah, I gotta admit, that kinda sounds like something that would make your heart explode. Now, what makes matters worse is the fact that there's no way to get rid of him other than moving on to the next screen. After watching a series of videos of people playing Berzerk, I've come to the conclusion that reaching a high score of 16,000 points takes between 10 to 15 minutes. If you can even get that far in the first place. This game is really freaking hard.
Humanoid intruder alert, intruder alert.
Now, I feel obligated to state that I'm not a doctor or medically trained in any way. This is all based on research I've conducted myself, so feel free to object if you feel inclined, but here's my conclusion. Stress can definitely kill you, that's a fact, but it will most likely take years to do so. Chronic stress can lead to high blood pressure, and high blood pressure can cause damage to artery walls, basically making them narrower, thus reducing the blood flow to your heart, and eventually, you'll have a heart attack. Some studies show that blood pressure can increase from an average of 106/62 to 133/67 when playing video games. High blood pressure is considered above 140/90. This is where you should probably consider doing something about it. But after playing, your blood pressure will usually reduce to your resting stage. So let's say Jeff and Peter reached 140 while playing Berzerk. 15 minutes, or even an hour for that matter, of playing Berzerk don't qualify as a threat for sudden cardiac death. Unless they played an extensive amount every day for 3 to 4 years, which would make the stress caused by playing the game to lead to a heart attack. It's a plausible situation. Had the story taken place 3 to 4 years from 1982, but seeing as the game was released in arcades in 1980, I think we can rule out death by video game at this point. If these events are true, these guys had some serious heart problems. All this being said, I think it's also worth mentioning that there are studies that show people having a decrease in blood pressure while playing games, so there's not really a sure answer, but it seems pretty clear that young people are more likely to have an increase, although again, not near any critical state. Now, let's review the evidence. If you dig deep enough, you might come across this newspaper cutout from the Chicago Tribune with the headline, "Heart Fails Video Player." Peter BUKOWSKI is mentioned by name and says to have died of a heart attack brought on by a myocardial inflammation and collapsed on April 3rd, 1982. Okay, so that basically proves that this actually happened, right? Unless this article is a fake, of course, created to make the story more believable. Well, as luck would have it, the Chicago Tribune keeps a digital record of all their issues online, and you can even search through their database for free. Now, I can't really remember where I downloaded this cutout, but to further help us out, the file name was actually a date, which leads me to believe that this is actually the date the article was published. So I looked up the paper from that day, And here we have it. April 27th, 1982. The same article, but for whatever reason with a different headline. But confirming our theory, mind you, that his heart was to blame, and not the game itself. Peter Bukowski suffered a heart attack at Friar Tuck's Arcade in Calumet City April 3rd, 1982, and was pronounced dead at St. Margaret's Hospital, Hammond. Another interesting piece that didn't make it to the first cutout was this last sentence. The heart attack could have been caused by any type of exertion, like hiking up a flight of stairs, or running from first to second base. Now, if you can remember, I quoted Alan McNeil earlier, who stated that a kid had run upstairs to play Berzerk. It could just be a weird coincidence that such similar events were mentioned, but maybe McNeil was in fact referring to Bukowski. Although that would collide with the fact that Bukowski was a physically healthy person who was alcohol and drug-free. That's a pretty huge contradiction, so I think we can with certainty say that Peter Bukowski is not the same kid as in the Alan McNeil story. So what about Jeff Dailey? Well, honestly, everything that I could find points to the Dailey story being a rumor. According to a few sources, he's said to be from the same area as Peter Bukowski, which is kinda weird. Also, some people say they were friends. Now, what are the odds that two friends die from the exact same cause while playing the exact same game? I'd say slim. I mean, if one of my friends died while playing a game, I don't think I'd ever get near that game again, for more than one reason. But even if this was just coincidences, if he in fact lived in the same area, his death would more than likely be mentioned in the Tribune, right? Seeing as these two cases were so similar, how could the media not speculate and theorize about faulty machines or killer video games? But there's nothing about another kid dying from a heart attack in the arcade in the Chicago area. Now, Twin Galaxies mentioned at one point that the Jeff Dailey story was nothing but a rumor that was started 6 months after the death of Peter Bukowski, and that the name comes from a Jeffrey Allen Dailey who died in Virginia in May 1981. Also, 16,660 points. Seriously, 666? Yeah. I mean, it all just sounds a little too good to be true. Well, maybe not good, but more like satanic to be true. We all know that the number 666 is known as the number of the beast, and I think that any sane person would discard this story based on that alone. So, what's my conclusion? The Peter Bukowski story actually holds up. I mean, we've seen the actual Chicago Tribune article in their database, and not just the article that's been circulating the web for years. This was a real guy. He did suffer a heart attack in the arcade and sadly passed away on April 3rd, 1982. As for Jeff Dailey, although substantiated throughout many sources such as Wikipedia and arcade history, I could find no credible source that leads me to believe that this actually happened. No newspaper articles, no obituaries, nothing. I choose to believe the Twin Galaxies story. It's a rumor that got out of hand and nobody cared to disprove it. And lastly, the McNeil version. Now, this is a hard one. Unless we get some kind of confirmation from McNeil himself, I don't think we'll ever know. There is a chance that it could just be a hybrid story based on different rumors. At least that's what it seems like to me. But in the end, it all leads back to Peter Bukowski. He's the Berzerk story that should come to mind whenever video game tragedies are brought up. Because that's exactly what it was. A truly tragic event in the early stages of the gaming generation. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. This video has been kind of exhausting to make. I'm sorry if I've offended anyone, that was not my intention, although I can see how this can be an offensive theme. I mean, it's about death. Someone died. It's sad. I don't know when or even if there's gonna be another episode like this, like Scary Stuffs, because initially it was just supposed to be one video for Halloween, and then I turned it into a two-parter, and then I felt like, you know, maybe it would be cool to have this as a segment of its own. So there might be some videos in the future, but for now it's back to radical reviews. But you know, if you have any suggestions, don't be shy, let me know. I'll see you guys soon.